So Dick Cheney decides he's going to give an interview to Playboy magazine. I know that because I read it for the articles. And what does he decide to talk about but President Obama and Eric Holder's race? That's fascinating. He says that they, quote, played the race card. And he goes on to explain, to say that we criticize, or that I criticize Barack Obama or Eric Holder because of race. I think it's obviously not true. My view of it is the criticism is merited because of performance or lack of performance because of incompetence. You're going to talk about incompetence? You? First of all, 9/11 happened under your watch. Second of all, you never got bin Laden. So, Mr. Incompetent, what did you do? Oh, right, you started the Iraq War, the biggest blunder in American history. Great job. You're talking about incompetence? Look at what happened in the Iraq War. Hundreds of thousands of civilians died. Over 5,000 American troops died. Tens of thousands injured, severely injured. We lost over $1 trillion. And what arose out of the Iraq War? ISIS. Well played, Mr. Competent. We're still having a conversation with this dick. He bungled foreign policy worse than I have ever seen from any president. And he comes in here and he says, oh yeah, they're playing the race card because they don't want us to criticize them. Yeah, if they were, it didn't work. You're still criticizing them, making insane arguments. You want to talk about economics? You want to talk about economics? You had a giant surplus handed to you, and your administration turned it into a giant deficit. You left the Obama administration with a $1.2 trillion deficit. You were handed a $500 billion surplus by Bill Clinton. You were the most incompetent administration we have ever seen in our lifetimes. What are you talking about, incompetence? All right, so now even Nicole Wallace is going to object in parts. She used to be part of the Bush administration. She's on The View now. Watch.
I wish that Vice President Cheney, who I worked for 7 years and respect a lot and agree with him on foreign policy, I wish he hadn't mixed the issue up with race. Yeah. Because I don't think that President Obama has been a strong president on foreign policy. I think he's done the sort of damage to the country in the globe that Jimmy Carter did. But I don't think it has anything to do with race. I don't agree with his foreign policy. But I don't have any feelings about his race. I mean, I actually think...
Do you think he's played the race card?
Not in the way that he suggests. I think people have been very critical of President Obama. I mean, if this is us being restrained by race, what would we say about him if he were white?
Now, that's a great point at the end by Nicole Wallace. So her earlier point is ridiculous. It's as bad as Jimmy Carter. Okay, quick quiz. Who got peace in the Middle East? The only president in our lifetimes. Oh, right, Jimmy Carter, when he got Egypt and Israel to agree to a peace deal that has lasted for 40 years. Imagine if Israel, on top of fighting all its other enemies, was fighting Egypt the whole time, a much larger country with a significant military. Who's the one president who made sure they got a peace deal so that Israel was safer and Egypt was safer and the whole area was safer? Oh, right, Jimmy Carter. Who's the one administration that bungled the Middle East and turned it into an epic disaster, where we have groups that are worse than Al-Qaeda festering all throughout the Middle East and decapitating people? Oh, right, Dick Cheney, that loser of losers. We're still having a conversation with this dick? All right, one last response here. On the economic grounds, the White House spoke out through a spokesperson. Let's watch.
Here's the profound disagreement with Vice President Cheney. We're more than happy to compare the record of this administration over the past 6 years that inherited the worst economic crisis since the Great Depression and is now in the 5th year of record job creation, which is the fastest pace in this country's history. We've taken historic deficits and we've reduced them by 2/3, and we're gradually bringing to an end 2 wars that the previous administration got into it.
So let's review the record one last time on all these issues. What are the 3 biggest disasters in America over the last 20 years, maybe 30 years? Go back, I don't know how far back you got to go before you come up with 3 bigger disasters then. The Iraq War, 9/11, and the 2008 economic crash and recession that ensued. Oh, right, they were all under the Bush administration, often led by Dick Cheney and his dumbass ideas. Wow, interesting. You know what that looks like? Incompetence. So shut your mouth. Go back into the cave that you've been in all this time.